13 out of 30, and then I would reduce it if I could. Okay, here's my other question. What is the probability of not selecting a girl? 17 out of 20, so that would be everybody else. Okay. I'm missing a magnet. Okay. All right. What is the probability I would select the blue magnet? 1 out of 4. What is the probability I would select the green magnet? 3 out of 4. What is the probability that I would not select the green magnet? 1 out of 4. Okay. So that is what we did before break, and that's kind of what we're going to go over quickly today. Is simple probability. Okay. So on your paper, this is where you're going to take some notes. If you need some notes, answer some questions because I didn't have an actual paper for this. So simple probability, there's 2 types. There's like, what is the probability of getting a green magnet, or what is the probability of not getting a green magnet? And that's the difference up here. So to find probability, it's the thing that's going to happen. So the probability of event A happening out of the total outcomes. So remember when we started talking about probability, and we talked about how you need to add them all up to find your total before you start finding your probability. That's what it was talking about. So, like when I say, what is the probability of a blue magnet? You go over there, you notice that there's 4. You notice that one of them is blue. So blue out of total, so 1 out of 4. But the thing that gets people is this right here. This little symbol means the probability of not A out of the total. So I would definitely make sure I write that down because that was the ones that were most missed before. So that little apostrophe not happening. John, can I sit up? Okay, so we're going to go through some of these. All right, so it says, and you don't have to write these down. Don't write down all the words. But if you have a penny, a nickel, a dime, and a quarter, and you pick one up at random, what is the chance you will choose something that is not a dime? So first thing in your head is you think, well, how many coins do we have? 4. And how many of them are not a dime? 3. So my probability is 3/4. What if I said the same question? What is the probability of getting a penny? 1/4. Okay, what is the probability of getting a penny or a nickel? 2 out of 4, which is 1/2. Good. Okay. The next question. If you roll a die, what is the chance it will land on a 9? 0. Good. I was just trying to trick you off. 0. So remember, we also talked about in simple probability that a probability of 0 means it could never happen. A probability of 1 means it actually will happen. And anything between those are our other probabilities. So the highest the probability could be is 1, and the lowest it could be is 0. So the chance of just rolling the dice and getting a 9, not possible. So it's a 0 probability. Okay. What is the chance that you'll flip a coin and it will land face up? 1/2, because there's 2 sides to a coin. Only one of the sides has a face, which is the head. Okay. You all write this one on your papers and try this. And what is the chance of you rolling a die and getting an even number? You all are going to have homework on this today, Avery, so instead of drawing, I'd be participating. All right, Roland, what do you think? Which is 1/2. The way that we know that is because how many sides are on a die? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 is the total outcome. And they want to know how many of them are even. So these are the numbers that are on your die. The ones that are even are the ones that are divisible by 2. So 3 of them are even. So 3 out of 6, which is 1/2. We should always reduce the beginning. All right, I'm gonna let you all try this one. I'll move it up some. I'm gonna reduce if you can. So think about how many total things you have. Then think about how many of the whatever it's asking for you have. All right, Emma, what'd you get? Okay. All right, so let's read it. You're right. So you have a bag with 12 marbles in it. 3 are red, 4 are blue, and the rest are yellow. What is the probability that you pick a blue marble? So I asked myself, how many marbles are there? 12. Eli, how many of them are blue? 4. So my probability is 4 out of 12, but that reduces to 1/3. Okay, this one. What is the probability that you will pick yellow or blue? So I'll give you a hint. You got to figure out how many of them are yellow. You'll use that same top stuff that you have 12 marbles, 3 red, 4 blue, rest are yellow. All right, Rana, what'd you get? 8 out of 12, are you sure? I don't know, we'll see. I don't remember what it is. All right, so 12 marbles, 3 red, 4 blue. So 3 are red, 4 are blue, so 7 of them are red and blue. How many of them are yellow? 5, because I have to do 12 minus 7, so 5 yellow. Okay, so red or yellow. So there are 3 red. There are 5 yellow. So that's 8 out of the 12 marbles, which reduces by 4 to be 2/3. All right, I'm going to let you all try this next page on your own. So write your answers on your paper. All right, you got 4 questions. They want to know, based off this picture, what is the probability that you'll spin blue, green, or purple? What is the probability of not orange and the probability of not red or blue? Answer all 4 questions on your paper. You don't have to draw the spinner, just answer the question. Your hands on one out. Where's yours? Oh, I thought it was You still have no idea what you're saying.
Not
now.
That's the lawyer.
Not now. Okay, remember we said first thing we're gonna do is count how many we have. So how many colors do we have on the spinner? 5. There's 5 colors on the spinner. Okay, Eli, what's the probability that I would spin it and get blue?
1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. There's only 1 blue. All right, Bella, what is the probability that I would get green or purple?
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5 because that green's 1, purple's 2, so 2 out of 5. Peyton, what's the probability that I would not get orange? 4 out of 5 because that means everything but orange, and 4 of them are other colors other than orange.
Wait, how do you know what?
Remember we said this thing means not. All right, Kaylee, what's the probability of not getting red or blue? 3 out of 5. Because there are 3 that are not red or blue. All right, any questions about simple probability and finding them?
This is easy.
All right, the other lesson that we learned that day was about experimental and theoretical. So this is only going to be about 1 slide for us here. So, experimental. Does anybody remember what experimental probability was? Experimental is when you actually experiment and do it and find out the actual probability. Theoretical is the probability that you think will happen. All of these that I just did were theoretical probabilities.
Wow.
All of these are what I thought should happen if I spun the spinner. Okay? But experimental is going to be what actually happens when I spin the spinner. So the difference here is experimental is the actual probability. So like when I do it. But theoretical is what I think should happen. And back when we did this, we talked about how the more and more and more I do the experimental probability, the bigger my sample space is with that experimental probability, the closer it gets to theoretical. So if I think of the probability on that spinner of spinning blue was 1 out of 5, if I spin it 10 times, it's probably not going to be 1 out of 5. But if I spin it 1,000 times, it's going to be really close to 1 out of 5. If I spin it 1,000,000 times, it probably will be 1 out of 5. So the larger that experimental probability is, that big sample, the closer it is to theoretical. So everything we just done up to this point was theoretical. It's what I thought should happen. We're going to spend some time on thinking, okay, what will actually happen? So what's that experimental probability? All right, so first we're going to do theoretical. We already did it on the other page. What is the probability that I would spin this spinner and it would land on blue? 1 out of 5. That is a theoretical. That's what I think should happen when I spin my spinner. I think the probability should be 1 out of 5. Okay, so this is my theoretical. That's going to be important to know that that's theoretical here in a second. Okay, now, moving on to this next part here, it actually says spin the spinner 10 times and record your results. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to label mine here. So red, purple, blue, green, orange. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're going to spin it 10 times, and I hope that it's going to be the same. Okay, spin number 1. Blue. Okay. Orange. Purple. Green. Red. Oh, we're on a roll here. Green again. Purple. 2, 4, 6, 7, 3 more. Blue.
Yeah, there.
Red. Blue again. I've got on my 10.
Blue one.
All right, no, but look at the question. Oh, I didn't have a question. So I spun the spinner 10 times. Now, this is experimental probability because I actually did it. This is what I actually found. What would be the probability out of these 10 times that I got blue? 3 out of 10. So my experimental probability is 3 out of 10. Everybody agree? So the difference between theoretical and experimental. Theoretical is what I thought it should have been. Experimental is what it actually was. Now, here's the part that we did not get to cover last time we did this. So if you haven't been paying attention, better start right now. The last question is different. It says, what is the difference in the theoretical and experimental probabilities? So it doesn't want to know what it is in words, it wants to know in numbers what's the difference between them. And what's the word difference in math mean? Subtraction. So it wants you to subtract the theoretical probability and the experimental probability. So I'm going to take these two numbers, the 3 tenths and the 1/5, and I'm going to subtract them. So 3 tenths minus 1/5. Now, what do you have to do when you subtract fractions? Come on, Emma. The denominator has to be the same. So you have to make a common denominator. So what would your common denominator be between 10 and 5? 10. One of them's already a 10. So I'm going to multiply this 5 by what? 2. So that's going to be 3 tenths minus 1 times 2. That's 2 tenths. So 3 tenths minus 2 tenths is 1 tenth. So the difference between the two is 1 tenth. Which one had a bigger probability? The experimental. So you're going to have to subtract on your homework by making a common denominator. Okay, so I'm going to pass out the homework worksheet and listen, because when you're done, there's something else you have to do. We're not going to run around the room feral and such, but when you're done, you're going to turn your paper into me, and then right here, during class only, when finished on homework, you're to work on one of these skills, whatever skill you need more practice with, whether it be simple or experimental or theoretical, etc. That's on iExcel, yes.